Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Week 15 in PIAA semifinal weekend here at the Altoona Mirror at the Altoona Mirror High School Football Preview Show on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Channel 13 on public access. If you have Breeze Line cable, we didn't know if we were going to be here again this weekend, but we are. As always, joined by Mike Boydham, Andy Stein. Dan Eisenberg's over here to our right, and my name is Scott Franco, which I didn't introduce myself last week because I was too intimidated by our guest coach, John Franco. But we're going to talk about, we have two teams left, and we're going to break down these games. Mike's going to break down, and Andy and I will listen and comment. Our first game we're going to talk about, this one is at Indiana High School, Class 3A semifinals, 6-1 Penn Cambria versus the WPIAL champ. At that level, Avonworth. I know a little bit about Avonworth because my brother's son's team, North Catholic, got crushed twice by them. What can you tell our listeners and our watchers and Avonworth has to offer?
Well, first of all, this is a rematch from last year. The teams played. Avonworth won last year 16-6, so it was a competitive game. Now, I've been told by some people, I was sitting next to some people that worked at Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the Tribune Review out at the BG Westinghouse game last week, and they said that Avonworth is better this year than last year. But, we've been counting Penn Cambria short all year, and I remember after last year when they lost this game, a lot of people from Penn Cambria said, hey, we're going to be right back here next year. Our program's turned a corner. And, I mean, at the first show of the year, I talked about how, hey, 3A is wide open. Any of these teams could win 3A. Tyrone, Central, Huntington, Forest Hills, Penn Cambria, Phillipsburg. Penn Cambria proved that they were the team to beat, and they've taken care of business in the state playoffs here so far. So to get back to this point and match the longest run in Penn Cambria history, I think it's pretty impressive regardless of what happens. But this team believes they can win.
And I looked up Avonworth's schedule because I wanted to see their closest game was Aliquippa, and that was 23-7. And I'm trying to think another power they played. It was actually right before the Aliquippa game, and they beat that team up pretty good.
The team they just beat in the district championship game, and Monty Christian came into that game undefeated,
and they beat them.
It was like 31-7.
Yeah, and North Catholic, which really has always a good program, they beat them like 44-12 and like 44-22. It's almost like their team, they play with their food before they end up beating them. But if you're Penn Cambria's coach and everything, do you count on that game last year as saying, look, see, we played with them. Yeah. But then again, you tell me now that kids will go on Backspreps and read these final scores.
They will.
They just blow everybody out.
Sure, yeah. And I'm sure they're going to take into consideration everything that happened last year and everything. I'm sure the kids that were last year, they all remember it. And I think it's important that they do take all that. But and I think they also need to realize that they also got to play their best game on Friday night too. So.
Hey, we've talked about in the past though, sometimes it's not a great thing when you're undefeated and you haven't been tested. Like, what if Penn Cambria gets a turnover like they had last week, where they get the interception and Latner picks the ball up and returns it and scores? They have great skill guys like Blake Lilly that are going to be able to be matching the coverage of these receivers, and say they get a turnover and a score, and all of a sudden Avonworth is in this game. That's not a situation they're familiar with.
Are they big? I mean, I didn't look at any size weights. I mean, are they bigger than Penn Cambria? Are they more athletic than Penn Cambria?
I will tell you what. Whatever they have, they don't have the mountain mentality.
Or the T-shirt.
I feel like we have that a little bit since we have the shirt.
I wore my shirt the day after we received our shirt.
I did too. And I'll reiterate what you said last week about the mountain mentality thing. Like, we used to kid about it, and we kind of do kid about it. But it's real over there. They take it seriously.
And I keep thinking, if they're watching film on Penn Cambria, do they see the running game with English? And they go, okay. But then the quarterback, Brady
Jones. Two weeks ago, he threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdown passes. I think, Andy, were you?
I was there at that game. Yeah, it was outstanding. The Giddis kid had like 192 of them or something like that. It just, we're not used to seeing that from Penn Cambria, but they can do it.
And our top receiver, as far as receptions, and I think he has 901 yards this year, is Blake Lilly. So, I mean.
Did you cover the game last year?
I did not cover that.
Did you?
I didn't.
I'm just kind of curious what kind of offense they run. That's why if it's like, because I thought they beat Amani Christian. I just thought, oh, that'll be a good game. And it wasn't a good game. But I mean, I'm rooting for Penn Cambria.
Amani Christian was getting ready for basketball season.
Yeah. Well, I also think last week, like my brother sat here and said about, I guarantee you Roman Catholic is not going to take Holliesburg. And then in the blink of an eye, it was 28-0. And I think I just turned it down on my radio station. So I don't know if Avonworth is of the same abilities as Roman Catholic, but I got to think it's imperative that Penn Cambria, that get first quarter's over and it's a tie game or a small lead, or even they have a small lead, I would think.
That team was just speed on speed on speed and
you were at the game. You were at the Roman Catholic game.
Best high school team I've ever seen personally. That team was incredible.
And my son told me that Roman Catholic's offensive linemen were faster than some of Holliesburg's skill position people.
Oh yeah. And everybody on their defense was outstanding.
And he said their backup linemen were actually their big linemen that got in the second half.
Yeah.
Their linemen in the first half were regular size.
And Holliesburg played better against them.
I'm curious to see what Amani Christian size is going to be.
Since we're talking about that game, though, real quick, I will say shout out to Carter Muth, who had a big game rushing, and he actually went over 2,000 yards for the season, which is an incredible stat.
And he's a junior. So yes,
had a great. I met his dad afterwards. Great family for sure.
Kudos to him. And again, that game's at Indiana High School, and that's not a bad drive for Cambria County people. Our next game we're going to look at, and this is Memorial Park in Mechanicsburg. This is 12-1 Belmont Charter versus the District 6 champ Bishop Guilfoyle. Belmont Charter is new to the game here. Tell the folks out there listening a little bit about them.
Yeah, so this is the first time Belmont Charter has been in this position. They knocked off Lackawanna Trail last week. That's a team that some of our longtime listeners are probably familiar with. Lackawanna Trail's played Juniata Valley. I think they may have played BG before. So when we looked at the brackets, even when I went down on the field after the game, Westinghouse's coach was like, "Oh, they play in Lackawanna Trail," and he was surprised to hear that Belmont Charter won, and it was a 52-40, game. It was the complete opposite of the BG Westinghouse.
But if they're giving up 40 points, I think BG's thinking, okay, well, at least we should be able to score on them.
Well, and yes, BG will certainly have a different game plan against Belmont Charter than they had against Westinghouse, because against Westinghouse, BG was just content to, hey, we have the lead, we're going to play it safe, and we're not going to turn the ball over. They did have an interception right before halftime, but they just ran the ball into the line. Their one touchdown drive took up 7 minutes and 58 seconds. So they just churned clock. And BG can do both of those things, though, because we've seen games this year where BG lit up the scoreboard as well.
And BG, I mean, without offending BG people, which in my 22 years back here, I have a tendency to do, evidently, from the emails I get. But BG could have lost that game. You were at that game. I listened to the game on the radio. Wheeler's son saved the day on that tackle. And the Declan
Peterson
saved the day on that fumble recovery.
Stripped the ball. The guy was trying to put it out over
and then Westinghouse killed themselves. I mean, you have never been allowed to spike a football ever in high school football. They score a touchdown. The kid spikes the ball. And yet they don't kick extra points or field goals. And it's not like they just decided that. It's always been like that for them. So they have to go for two from the 17-yard line. And then they got a penalty. They fumbled at the one. They could have had BG pinned at the 1 yard line. There was a personal foul penalty, which somebody told me that,
16,
the one kid was like arguing with the ref, something that he had progress up. Yeah. So no, BG's not in, and BG doesn't make stupid mistakes like that.
Well, that's because they've been there before.
Yeah, and
they're used to being in that spot. Yeah, Westinghouse had 10 penalties for 95 yards, and that's the thing. I mean, Belmont hasn't been there before either, so maybe you frustrate them into some of these penalties as well.
I imagine if you're Belmont's coach, you're like, how do I get that video? I know you don't exchange VCH or VHS tapes anymore, but I got to think that
Huddle's a great thing.
That's what they're watching, thinking, okay, we just got to not do that,
yeah,
but do everything else that Westinghouse was doing.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure they're thinking like, be smart. I'm sure they're thinking they got to play their best game too and everything. It was interesting for BG. I remember I talked about last week in last year's game with Westinghouse. Their first touchdown drive, it was kind of like what Mike described. It was about a 7-8 minute drive or something like that. Now, last year's game was a little bit different because BG lit up the scoreboard that day. But it's also good to know that, when you need to have those 7-6 games like you had last week, BG can win like that too, for sure.
Now, you both seen them. How many players would you say BG has, roughly? Do you think they're in the mid-20s, close to 30s?
I'd say, yeah, close.
I looked at Belmont Charter again today because I was looking for my cool names. They have 22 kids. Mm-hmm. They have 7 linemen. The biggest lineman they have, and he's a big dude. He's a junior. I think he's like 6'4", 6'5", 300, but everybody else seemed regular size. But I don't think BG's line ever really cared if anybody was bigger than them. But 22 kids, and that's if all 22 are even playing, because Max Preps put that up probably at the beginning of the season, huh?
Well, I will say Lackawanna Trail is a team that's been physical over the years and everything, and the fact that they were able to, score 52 points against them is a sign that they can succeed despite possibly not having a lot of depth. I will say this, a lot of Belmont Charter's scores in that game were like 70-yard plays,
like 2-play drives, 3-play.
Yeah, like Shineem Newsom. I'm definitely getting that wrong, but there are a lot of names on this team that I will get wrong. Their quarterback's name, Nafis Watkins, maybe. Anyway, these guys, Newsom had a 74-yard touchdown run. Tahir Tucker had a long touchdown catch. Kabir Knight had a long touchdown catch. These guys are really athletic, and they have the ability to make these big plays, but BG is going to be really super focused on that. That's what they were trying to do against Westinghouse. They were bending and not breaking. They were like saying, hey, we'll allow a 6-yard run, but you're not going to get that 70-yard run. And we're going to make you get first downs and move the ball down the field. And we're going to count on you making a mistake, making a penalty that's going to kill your drive. And that's what Westinghouse did.
And I got to think, too, BG's thinking, you know what, we're going to have a 9-play drive where there's like 8 handoffs and keep that clock running.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of BG's MO this year. Just kind of grind it out.
Keep the ball out of those kids' hands.
Grind it out in the playoffs for sure. That's what I mean. And I think that's that's a big key for anybody is to limit the explosive plays like Mike was talking about just now. So
I also think making a connection with both those teams. Both teams this year, I thought, Penn Cambria is not going to be able to do that again because I just thought they lost so much. Yeah. And I said the same thing with Bishop Guilfoyle. That offensive line, I hardly recognized a lot of those. And here they are.
Well,
there they are again.
And also, they're doing this. We thought that they'd have Torian Consiglio, who was their starting running back and their leading tackler from last year as well. So you lose a big guy off of defense and offense. But Jake Kissel has really been that guy for them this year. And I asked Coach Wheeler because he limped off the field in the last game. He did finish the game, but Coach Wheeler said that they're hoping he's going to be as close to 100% as possible this week. But at this point in the season, Andy, I'm sure you can attest to this. I don't think anyone's really 100%.
Yeah, no one's 100% healthy at this point of the year. And, the key is, are you good enough to go? And in most cases, unless you're have like a serious injury, you're probably going to say yes.
And I remember Bill Parcells always used to say, there's a difference between playing hurt and playing injured. You can hurt.
Yeah.
If you're injured, then you're not going to be any good to them out there.
At this point, you got to be pretty injured to not be playing.
And you were talking about Consiglio. I can remember the weekend. It was when they lost to Richland, when it was official that he wasn't going to be. And I thought, oh my God, they lost him. They just lost to Richland. When's the last time they were 1-1? Or whatever it was.
And if you remember that, after that game, I think they beat Belfont like 7-0.
7-0, yeah. We just looked it up because I was looking for photos.
And when I interviewed a couple kids for the story I'm working on for this week's paper, they said like, hey, that was a turning point where like we just barely beat Belfont, we lost to Richland, we lost Torian. Like this was a concern. It was like, what's the season going to be like? Are we going to be practicing on Thanksgiving? And they turn things around from that point, and once again, they're practicing on Thanksgiving.
And two other games we want to mention, just in case you want to go see them, because they're going to be here. It's basically District 3 versus District 7, and they're using Mansion Park as their playhouse. Saturday, 7 o'clock, Central Catholic out of Pittsburgh, which just beat State College there last week. They're the 7-1 champs. They're going to play Harrisburg, the 3-1 champ, which Harrisburg has the running back, Messiah. He was going to Penn State, and he decommitted. He was a running back. His first name is Messiah. Love that first name because I thought that's
good.
Yeah, that's going to be there at 7. And then 1 o'clock in the afternoon, also in Mansion Park, the 5A semis. The one we just said was 6A. Bishop McDevitt 3-1 versus Peter Township WPIAL School, and Bishop McDevitt's already played on that field this year.
Bishop McDevitt beat Altoona 38-0 at Mansion Park earlier this year.
Yeah, so if you're not unless you'll be watching college football on Saturday. You might want to take those games in, and don't forget you got to order your tickets on the internet, right?
That's right.
www.worldwidenet.
You got to go high tech a little bit.
High tech a little bit. You can't just walk up with your wallet and lap money. They'll laugh at you like they laugh at me. Anyway, we're going to start with Andy's line of the week, and then we'll go with Mike's stuff, and then the cool name stuff. What do you got for our line of the week?
Short steps. Short steps are better than long steps.
So those of you who've been watching this show for, this is my 4th season now.
I thought you were going to say since the 50s. Was it since the 50s when Jedediah Boydham and Giuseppe Franco were hosting?
Aloysius Stein,
Aloysius Stein, that's a good one.
Yeah, so the 4 years I've been with you guys, I have never actually picked a lineman of the week or a line of the week on Thanksgiving week because there was a reason for that. Number one, I'm kind of running out of teams right now. Both BG and Penn Cambria have had their chances at line of the week. And number two, I'm not going to pick anybody on Thanksgiving week anyway because this is our holiday. We thrive on Thanksgiving here. So just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody, not just linemen, just everybody.
Are you saying skill position people don't like to eat food on Thanksgiving?
Linemen take this holiday to heart. This is my favorite holiday.
I think that's a challenge out there to the split ends or the slot receiver or the H-back who doesn't think
you want a shot at the title.
Andy Stein doesn't think you guys can eat enough this weekend. Anyways,
every wrestling coach.
There you go.
That's true.
And now Mike's got his stat of the week, so he has something jotted down here on his paper. I'm anxious to see what it is.
Well, the stat of the week is really simple this week. It's 5. That's how many years that Belmont Charter has had a varsity football team. Belmont, yeah.
I thought Belmont's got a new private school now. Geez, District 6 is going to go nuts.
Belmont Charter has only existed as a varsity football team for 5 years. They had their first season in 2021, and now they're already in the state semifinals. So, no matter how you want to look at that, that's pretty impressive to take a program from that point where you're just getting started. Because remember, your brother was up there with
St. Joe's.
Was that Chuck Bannis?
No, it was Steve Gutoff.
Steve Gutoff. They were trying to get a program started at St. Joe's. Thought they could get some people in from State College and everything, and the things kind of fell apart. And I don't think that they had a team for longer than 5 years.
Was it even 5 years?
Yeah. So to take a team, start it from nothing, and be in the state semifinals, pretty impressive.
And I know I looked on their school page because I wanted to see what their colors were. I saw they had a picture of their spring track team from last year, and they have 5 boys on their boys track team.
Wow.
Now I know BG has a small track team. Sometimes like that, but I just thought, wow, 5, and I thought, well, their football had 22.
Is there more girls? Is there more girls?
Well, I didn't see the picture of the girls' team. I think the boys' team won something local, and that's why they said the Belmont. The Belmont Charter, 2024 boys track team or 2025, whatever it was. I was like, wow, that wouldn't be a hard one to type up and put the results in because you would know that. But anyways, so there you go. The number 5, this or the electric company. Dan will put the number 5 up on the screen.
I wanna know what's the name of the game.
And then here we go. We don't know if this is our last cool name segment of the year because we don't know if we'll be back next week for 1 team, 2 teams, or no teams. But anyways, Belmont Charter, here's a name that stuck out at me just because it sounded like something from a novel. He's a freshman linebacker. His name is Ashton Fletcher Young. 2 last names. And then the name Ashton, like Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, I like that.
Ashton Fletcher Young. I wonder if he has a girlfriend named Buffy or Miffy or Muffy or Biffy or whatever. And then Avonworth had a lot of names, but this one I liked. It was a junior running back, cornerback. His name is Dimitri Velasaurus. That sounds like the bad guy who's trying to kill Denzel Washington in one of the Equalizers.
So I don't.
Dimitri Velasaurus.
I don't know why I think this, but every time I hear the name Dimitri, I think of Dimitri Young, the old baseball player.
Oh, see, I
don't know. I'm a baseball.
I know there was a '90s, '80s group called Delamitri, but that has nothing to do with
me.
Yeah, see, Delamitri.
Great song.
But anyways, Dimitri Velasaurus. But anyways, that's going to do it. Hopefully, the day before Thanksgiving, you're going to be watching this show, so you have all your information. So we'd all like to say Happy Thanksgiving. And if we don't see you next week, then we don't see you next week. But who knows?
Next fall.
We'll see you next fall. So, but for Mike, for Andy, for Dan, my name's Scott Franco. Take care, and we'll see you next time.